Here is how this is going to work, because this is a lot. And I do mean a lot. I recorded this with AI, so the AI can read it, because it reads very well and much better than me, excluding the fact that it cannot say the word Primarch. It cannot say some of these words that are strictly Warhammer, so it just says Primarch, which is ridiculous, but it is what it is. Also, it doesn't say Custodes, it just says Custodes. But to be fair, many Warhammer YouTubers still cannot say Custodes. So they still say Custodes, and many that are not Warhammer. So this comes to us from Reddit user Stubatable. Okay, Stubatable. Okay. So you know my humor, guys. Stubatable. Okay, Stubatable, who also leaked the news about the female Custodes, and I covered this. He posted this Ashes of the Imperium book cover, and he said what it says, but he didn't actually took a picture. He didn't took a picture, and I called him out in my video, and I said, if you want to prove that this is real, why didn't you take the picture? I mean, take a picture from the passage in which it says that there is a female custody. Why didn't you film the book from different angles? Because anybody can print out something like this, you know, and call it a book. I mean, this should be real. I say this should be real, and his original language is German. Maybe that's why he didn't take a picture, because it's in German, but I would if I want to prove that this is real. So if this is real, we will have a female custody written down right here. So these are all the spoilers, and there's a lot, so let's just get through it. I'm gonna play something, talk about it in the beginning. There's not a lot to talk about, since this is very hard to read, because there's some mistakes here and there because of difference of a language. It's even harder to read. There are not many of these, but again, this is where the AI comes in, because it really helps. So that's why I'm gonna play it, and if I need to comment, I'm gonna comment. If I don't need to comment, I'm not gonna comment. Simple as that. There's many things that are important, and there's many things that absolutely are not important. And I also talk with Chainsword 40K, and he also has some things to say. I hope that I can get him here as soon as possible, so he can actually tell us from a lore expert perspective, because believe me, he is a lore expert. If I ever seen one, that's definitely Chainsword 40K, because he has been there since the very beginning of Warhammer 40K. Sorry, I'm fixing some of the things like in motion. And he knows better than anyone what it was, and a lot that we can't even comprehend for the most part. It's extremely difficult to be in his position, because he just knows so much that many people just haven't even touched upon, because he has read and he analyzed so many things, like all the material since Warhammer started. So last greetings to you guys in the chat, and I'm gonna address the chat as soon as I can, but for the most part it's going to be after the whole thing, because we do have to get through 30 minutes of leaked lore. It's a lot. So Mr. Mewtube, welcome, and hi to you. Now let's play this and be tortured by it, I guess. Oh boy. So again, guys, this is complete spoilers for Ashes of the Imperium. If this is true, again, take it with a grain of salt. The book's gonna come out probably next month, and I'm gonna get it in audio format, and I'm gonna listen to it, and as soon as I can, you're gonna get a review, and what's real and what's not, we're gonna find out. Okay? Let's listen now.
From a pre-March or a Custodes.
Oh boy,
The book is written from multiple POVs. None of them is a POV from a pre-March or a Custodes.
Okay, POV, point of view. So the point of view of someone that's telling the story.
Each chapter starts with a quote. Many are from a historian writing the official history of the siege and the events that follow. Some are the memoirs of a Navy officer. There are also interrogation records of captured traitor space marines, and so on. The POVs are Gelada, a traitor guard demagogue, Archimus from the Imperial Fists, Titus Praetor, the ultramarine chief librarian, Khalid Hassan and other Malcadors chosen, Ortak Theokon, an iron warrior, Adraharsis, a word-bearer, Vardash Krya, chief apothecarius of the sons of Horus. Since some of the POVs overlap, when it comes to when they happen, my summary may look a bit all other the place in its structure. The book handles this way better than I can in this summary. The book starts with the Iron Warriors POV trying to escape Terra. Their goal is to regroup and rebuild somewhere to face the wrath of Imperium. The POV of Gelada also starts with her and other traitor guard running for their lives to find some place where they can hide from the loyalists. They find some abandoned troop transports and use them to escape the palace and the Himalayan plain. The palace is described as giant ruin and desert of toxic rubble. After some time, they find a kilometer-wide waterfall made of the blood and other chemicals flowing from the palace down to the lowlands. Gelada, although being a demagogue who has turned multiple hive cities to chaos, has a crisis of faith since the dark gods withdrew completely. As they stumble upon a field of hundreds of thousands of dead people planted like crops, she questions if such barbarism is necessary anymore. Sometime later, they find a dying thousand son, and he gifts Gelada his ceremonial knife. Gelada and the rest of her group later stumble upon a small village where they try to steal their food. As they are surrounded by the villagers, she proclaims that the villagers are at fault for what happened to them and Terra as they try to defy the true gods.
Hold on, guys, there's a puppy issues right here. But yeah, puppies. I just wanted to say that I don't care about gelato, espresso, whatever that is. I don't like filler anyway. But we're gonna listen to that because it's gonna connect. But in any case, when it's a filler, I don't care. I don't care at all. But this is all the leaks. So we're getting through all the leaks. Interesting or not, we're getting through it. Okay?
She and her companions are subsequently beaten to death by the villagers. Meanwhile, the Iron Warriors manage to escape into orbit in a Thunderhawk. They're in the void between Terra and Luna Adraharsis, and his word-bearers are hiding on board a heavily damaged corvette. To not be detected, they had deactivated all systems, which lead to the mortal crew dying, leaving only the Space Marines alive. They are waiting for the right time to escape and not be immediately destroyed by the Ultramarine fleet. When some other bigger traitor ships try to fight their way out, they see their opportunity and began to power up the systems to escape. While making all speed away from Terra, the Iron Warrior Thunderhawk ship. After some debate, Adraharsis allows the Iron Warriors to land their Thunderhawk on board. Soon after, the ship is attacked by Ultramarine void ships. The Iron Warriors used the Thunderhawk and programmed its machine spirit to attack and annoy the Ultramarines long enough for the corvette to deactivate all its systems and run silent through the void. While silent running through the Sol system, they pass by the combined fleet of the Dark Angels and Space Wolves. Adraharsis tries to commune with the Dark Gods, which is near impossible since after the death of Horus, the warp is extremely calm. But at last he gets a small massage from the gods. Don't run, and search for a place with thin walls.
A small massage. But that's a mistake. That's a mistake, guys. It's a small message. It's not a massage. But for some reason, that's how it was spelled, I think, and that's how the AI read it. So that's the funny part. A small massage. So basically, it seems like, I mean, to explain a bit what's coming, it's about basically the fact that after the Emperor killed Horus, the whole warp decided to quiet down because technically the Emperor almost killed the gods by killing Horus, and they went into hiding. I don't know how that makes much sense. That's why I just can't wait to read the book myself. If this is true, again, we have to take it with a huge grain of salt, maybe a whole rock. But if this is true, this is a bit ridiculous, and it's not how things were presented thus far. But we're going to discuss everything after we finish with this because it's a lot of lore dump that I have to play. So that's why I can't reply to your messages, just saying this to the new people. I'm gonna text in the chat and reply to messages this way while we are listening to the lore. But yeah, I think the small massage was like the biggest mistake of the AI. But other than that, whatever typo is in there is because of the author's first language is not English, so that's why. Okay, continuing.
They make their way to the Elysian Gate, which is surrounded by a gargantuan debris field. In this debris field, they and other traitor ships are once again attacked by the Ultramarines. This time the corvette is destroyed, and the word bearers and iron warriors jump out of it to reach one of the destroyed defense platforms in the debris field. They lose some people along the way. There they find an abandoned Blood Angels transporter. The IW and BW are constantly at their throats. The IW hating the BW for their superstitions, and the BW feel pity for the IW for
Okay. Word bearers and something. I have to check what BW was, but I don't know why he decided to just abbreviate these things. I don't think that's most important. Most important is when we get to the Primarch section of everything. So yeah, let's just take it like word bearers, whoever fought. This is not that substantial. It's mostly filler. So let's get to the good part.
their materialistic worldview. With their new ship, they try to reach Neptune. When attacking the Sol system, the word bearers landed on every planetoid and began to build shrines and cathedrals. The plan was that after Horus Victory, Terra would be the Dark Heart, and every other planetoid, station, and asteroid would be converted into a place of worship, thus transforming the entire Sol system into a shrine for the dark gods. Adraharsis hopes that Neptune is insignificant enough that the Ultramarines have not yet attacked it and its moons. But the Ultramarines have been thorough, and every satellite of Neptune has been cleansed and or destroyed. But then Adraharsis notices that the mass of one of the small moons does not match the destruction they see with their eyes. It turns out the moon was not destroyed, and its devastated look is just a warp illusion. For Adraharsis, another sign that the dark gods are not gone, but have only withdrawn. After exchanging some secret codes, the ship is allowed to land on the hidden moon. Before they land on the moon, the sensors of their void ship pick up the signals of ships waiting near Neptune. Back to Terra. Archimus' POV starts with him awaking from the world's most powerful nap. After months of being awake, Dorn personally orders him to go to sleep, and he does so on the spot. While
Okay, that was one of the most ridiculous things that I ever heard, that Dorn orders this guy to sleep and he immediately falls down and sleeps. Like, I never heard any such thing. This sound like a fan fiction? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I read many Warhammer books. I never read the whole thing because the whole thing, what? Who read that? There's like hundreds of books, but I read a ton of books. Okay, I never heard that Primarch said, "Hey, go to sleep, man," and he just dropped like a rock. Like, what the heck is that? Really sounds like a comedy or parody of fanfiction. I don't know. Yeah, well, let me know what you think. Okay, continuing.
literally falling asleep, his armor damages a nearby wall. When he awakes, he at first doesn't know where he is and what his name is. After that, he wanders aimlessly through the palace, not knowing what his purpose is after the Zero-Depth Siege. He meets many Ultramarines and workers from Ultramar on his way and gets very suspicious of them. Isn't it very convenient of them to only arrive after the siege and now being the strongest legion on Terra? What if this was Gilliman's plan all along and he wants to take over the Imperium? But he quickly dismisses these thoughts. On his way through the palace, he meets Cinderman, who urges him to arrange a meeting with Dorn. Cinderman wants to convince Dorn that every bit of knowledge about the warp must be destroyed, but Archimus says that it is unlikely that Dorn has the time to listen to Cinderman. After that, he is summoned by Dorn. But getting there is difficult since some of the shifts that happened during the end of the siege are now permanent. Rooms are not where they're supposed to be, and hallways now lead in the wrong directions. This has made the sanctum at a high risk of collapse, and the Ultramarines are working tirelessly to prevent that from happening.
Okay, So, how does this make any sense to you guys? Just let me know. So, after everything is said and done, the warp is no longer there. So, reality, at least how it is in everything else that I've read that is fiction, just returns to normal and is not altered in any way. So, for all the rooms to be completely messed up and turn around in different directions and whatever doesn't really make sense to me. Of course, they can do it. Of course, it's a fantasy. You can write whatever, but it still has to make some kind of a sense. And I don't think that does really. Because, the warp can enter the material world, it can change our perception of reality, but for the most part, it shouldn't be able to shift the materium in that kind of a way. If it could shift the materium, then why not just enter the materium in the first place and change it? I mean, you can say, well, because the emperor protects it, whatever, but when the emperor doesn't protect other worlds, the warp just doesn't go there to invade or whatever. This is really based on the current context, I guess, but at least to me, when I read a fantasy or whatever book and Warhammer, because again I read so many, I never really had a lot of moments like, well, this doesn't make sense. Eh? But this time I do. This is the first book that I feel so freaking confused about everything. So yeah. Okay, we have to continue, guys, because once again, this is a lot. I'm gonna get to your comments as soon as I can.
Before meeting Dorn, he stumbles upon Aphone Iyer, who sits in a lonely corner of the sanctum. They have a brief talk where she expresses her hope that Sisters of Silence are from now on more respected and hopes that Luna, their home base, is liberated soon. Archimus' response is that he believes that no one can doubt that their loyalty to the Imperium after all their sacrifices during the siege. After that, he meets Dorn. The Primarch looks deflated and tired, not at all like his usual imposing appearance. Dorn then orders Archimus to help with the rebuilding efforts and to find a way to sway the Lion and Leman to their side. Dorn then orders Archimus to help with the rebuilding efforts and to find a way to sway the Lion and Leman to their side. During all this, Titus Praetor is on a mission from Guilliman to find Vulcan and convince him to come back to the palace for the meeting of all the Primarchs where they discuss their course of action. He is also supposed to ensure that Vulcan is on Guilliman's side. He remarks that the warp is so extremely calm that he and all other psychers in the Sol system are not able to use their psychic powers anymore. Titus takes an old lighter from the sanctum to find Vulcan and his bodyguard of salamanders, since they went outside the palace to hunt Emperor's children still left on the planet. He finds them in one of the tributary cities outside the palace and witnesses a fight between an EC and Vulcan. In this fight, Vulcan rips out all of the extra space marine organs of this EC with his bare hands before killing what's left of his foe. He then talks to Titus and tells him that he will return in time for the meeting, but for now he has to eradicate the EC. In his eyes, they are so abhorrent that they don't deserve to die as space marines. When another EC emerges from the shadows of a building, Vulcan offers Titus to join him in killing this EC before leaving for the palace. Titus gladly accepts. When returning to the palace, he immediately goes to see Guilliman. While on his way, Titus muses that every blood angel behaves strangely and that they are very secluded. But nobody who has been on Terra during the siege wants to tell what happened to the blood angels. Guilliman's chambers are guarded by a custodian named Aristide. Her face is heavily scarred from the battles at the siege. The blade of her spear is worn, and her golden armor has extensive battle damage. They have a brief conversation where her stoic facade cracks but a moment showing that whatever has happened to Emperor has shook her and the over-custodians to the core. She
Wait! This is the part with the female custody. Hold on, I'm gonna return. I'm gonna go back a little bit. Hold on.
siege. The blade of her spear is worn, and her gold Aristide. Her face is nobody who has been on Terra during the siege wants to tell what happened to the blood angels. Guilliman's chambers are guarded by a custodian named Aristide. Her face is heavily scarred from the battles at the siege. The blade of her spear is worn, and her golden armor has extensive battle damage. They have a brief conversation where her stoic facade cracks for, but a moment showing that whatever has happened to Emperor has shook her and the over-custodians to the core. She is also one of the few custodes outside of the Imperial dungeon. In his conversation with Titus, Gilliman reassures him that conquering Luna and Mars is much more important than immediately rushing after the traitors.
Okay, he jumped directly to something else. So, if this is true, this is really a female custody, and she's sitting there and she's devastated. But if you're going to put emotion in a custody, and it's a female custody, it's even worse because then you say, well, female custodies have emotions because they're female. Oh, no, 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 wait. Custodies are supposed to be, well, first only male, and then not supposed to crack, not supposed to have emotions like humans, just crying, oh my gosh, my emperor. I mean, they could be totally in disarray, so to speak, innerly, but you are not supposed to see this on the outside. This is not a sad crying type of a situation. I mean, the situation is sad and crying. You know, it's the emperor is freaking dying or dead basically on the throne. All those things. The Imperium is devastated. Okay, I get it. Their connection is to the emperor, their allegiance, their whole nature is screaming the emperor. So whatever happens to the emperor, they feel it. Okay, fine. But you just cannot say that a custody will be so shaken that she, that's not does not supposed to exist in the first place, is actually crying or shaking or whatever. You can say anything else. That that they're still stoic and they're trying their best in this moment or whatever, but don't say that they're almost like at the brink of crying and breaking down. This is how this sounds. So if I was a fan that also like to write fan fiction and also like to see the world only through emotional glance and totally forgetting that Warhammer is not about that. It's definitely not about showing emotion through one of the most stoic ever warriors depicted in any fiction, and just decide to write what, like, this is why this is like fan fiction, because first there's female custodies that are not supposed to be there. I'm pretty sure that fans did some female custodies things before in terms of fan fiction, literally, art, stuff like that. So this is so much like fan fiction that I can't even believe it, basically. Or at least the way that this guy told what is in the book seems this way. When we actually get the book, maybe it will not sound this way, but if we get that female custody is gonna be already ruined by that fact anyway. It is logical that they will integrate female custodies eventually in the novels as well, because they do not exist throughout the whole lore up to this point. You can't just put them in a codex if you want them to be there for good in the lore, if you want them to be canon. You do have to push them in another box. That is what GW should do if they want to keep them. So if they're here, this makes sense from this point of view. Of course, it doesn't make any sense that they exist again. To begin with, they shouldn't be there. But the point is that since they already are, they should be somewhere, because otherwise we have no instances in the whole history of Warhammer of female custodies ever existing even a little tiny bit. But again, even if they do, and let's say that they do, don't show emotion. Because then you say they're female, that's why they're showing emotion. And you're just making it worse. You're just making them lesser than the guys anyway, so you're not doing them any favors anyway. So why put them there? Like, what are you doing? What are you doing, Games Workshop? It's just needless, it's pointless, it's stupid, it's breaking the lore, it doesn't serve any purpose, doesn't add anything, it just makes it worse. So yeah, let's continue.
in a new crusade. He believes that the Emperor has destroyed the dark gods, a theory that is supported by the fact the warp is not only calm, which can happen in its natural ebb and flow, but completely absent. Psychers like Titus are not able to use their powers because of this. In the meantime, what's left of Malcador's Chosen have a meeting where they discuss what to do next. After Malcador's death, they are leaderless and do not know what to do. Hassan wants to continue what Malcador's has started and build an Imperium by the people for the people. But time is of the essence because the sigils that Malcador has implanted in their minds are beginning to fade. Quick side note. One of the chapter start quotes mentions that the greatest loss of the Imperium was not the Emperor, but Malcador. If Malcador would have survived, he could have held the Imperium together and prevented our current 40K timeline. He tasks Mahazan with building alliances.
Okay, great. If Malcador was alive, he could have, bring the Imperium together. Great. But how about the freaking Emperor? If the Emperor has survived, he could also do this because he's the Emperor. The Emperor is still more valuable than Malcador. So that's kind of stupid statement. The Emperor is always going to be the Emperor. The Emperor is always going to be more important than Malcador. Malcador is very important, don't get me wrong. He's the best thing since sliced bread, but he's not the Emperor. So you can say Malcador is even more important than the Emperor. Since when? Since when, GW? That's ridiculous. Again, I'm not actually going to address GW, direct this at them until we actually are sure that this is the lore for sure. So I'm just gonna say, what the heck? Okay, continue.
And strengthening existing ones with the Senatorum Imperialis, because without Malcador, his Chosen may lose all their political weight they once possessed. Xanthus wants to find Cinderman and convince him that they must understand the enemy, Chaos, to beat it. Sometime later, he finds Cinderman in his chambers, and he manages to convince Cinderman that destroying the knowledge about Chaos was the way of the Emperor, and this clearly didn't work out for him. It was quite difficult to convince Cinderman since he already began arson attacks on libraries and archives containing knowledge about Chaos. After the meeting, Hassan uses his old codes to get access to the Imperial dungeon. He wants to see the place where Malcador has died. On his way down, he notices that the Mechanicum installs machinery and generators in.
Hold on. Malcador died on the Golden Throne while trying to hold it in the absence of the Emperor, so did he die also in another place? I'm kind of confused. Did he teleport at the last minute and died? Because, I did read all the 3 books of the last Siege of Terra books, and he just evaporated on the throne. That was it. He was doing his best, but he just died there. How can he be in another place and die there? I don't get it.
Every nook and cranny of the Imperial dungeon. He meets Amon, who at first points his weapon at him. A misjudgment the custodes of old would have never made, but now they are in deep emotional pain. Amon takes Hassan as near to the throne as is humanly possible.
The custodes, are in deep emotional pain. No, they shouldn't be in deep emotional pain. Maybe they should feel unsettling, disturbed, like they're not themselves a bit. But to use the word emotion, I think it's a bit too much human. They have to be better at this and just try to not depict things so human, because again, they're not human anymore, not in the way that we are, at least. They're obviously made out of humans, and they're obviously by this point much more than a human. Uh, but that's the point of the custodes. They have so many qualities that separate them. And one of these qualities are the ability to be extremely faithful to the Emperor and extremely strong mentally, emotionally, but you don't really hear that in Warhammer 40K. So all of a sudden we are appealing to emotion now. It's just weird.
Which is still far away. Hassan's description of the Emperor's aura is that of an eldritch horror. He describes the thing on the throne as something fundamentally wrong, a thing pulled from the other side of the mirror, which is not supposed to exist here. When he looks at the throne, he sees a one-eyed skull screaming in agony and despair.
Wait a minute, the Emperor is already a screaming skull? Where did he decay? I mean, this is like after he died and was put on the throne, when he already decayed and became a skull. Like, again, another weird thing.
Here are two quick notes. First, a quote from the Mechanicum that only 20% of the throne and throne room remain intact after the siege, and it is impossible to say if they can ever repair it. Second, Hassan mentioned that at the location where the emperor is now seated, there was no throne, beaver the siege. Also, the golden throne is described as a nightmare of black and gray machinery, and the emperor himself sits between two half spheres with spikes on the outside. Amon then tells him that some other party has taken Malkador's remains and gives him the papers which authorize the removal.
This is crazy. Like, what remains of Malkador and why the throne room is only 2%? Like, what the heck? How can you put your emperor in a place that it barely functions and it's barely even there? It's so incompetent. This sounds like a ridiculous, incompetent, convoluted mess. I mean, he's a perpetual. If they just left him there, I mean, in this context, if they just left him on the floor, he would be better off than leave him to something that doesn't even function well and everything about it is missing besides 2%. This sounds ridiculous, guys. I don't know. I can't wait to actually read the book so I understand this better because this may be lost in translation. So who knows? But so far, this really doesn't make much sense. And I don't know why they have to write it this way because we already had a lot of information how the emperor kind of looked like and how the emperor was put into the golden throne, what the golden throne was, that nobody can like go near it because they're gonna die, that he needs 1,000 psychers every day to function. Now it turns out that it's actually the throne and not the emperor that needs 1,000 psychers every day to function. It's not the emperor, it's the throne. All of a sudden it's the throne now. This is very, very disturbing. It's disturbing because up to this point we knew some things and now all of a sudden this is like a cake in the face, like, oh, look at this. This is the new lore. Oh my god. Spitting cake. What's happening? That's how I feel. But let's continue. We have a bit more than half to go through.
Hassan is now determined to find Malkador's remains. After that, Hassan and Mohazan have a meeting, the Senatorum Imperialis, which contain of the Administratum, Astra Telepathica, Grand Provost Marshal, Arbites, Astra Militarum, Chancellor of the Exchequer, don't know how he is called in 40K English, the Paternova and Nura Sukassin as Grand Admiral or the Imperial Navy. In this meeting, Hassan tries to convince all these mortal senators to vote with Guilliman since it is obvious that all his brothers want another crusade to start immediately and would therefore vote against him. This would be best opportunity for mankind to become independent from the Primarchs and Space Marines. But without the support and threat of Malkador at his back, he isn't able to convince any of the senators, and they all proclaim that they will vote in favor of Dorn. Deflated, Hassan and Mohazan remain in the chambers while all the senators leave. Hassan remarks that now they know for sure that without Malkador, the Chosen have virtually no political power anymore, and they have to find a way to stay relevant in the new political landscape of the Imperium. After the meeting, they also learn that Keeler has somehow made it of planet. She is hunted by the Imperium since Guilliman has reinforced the Imperial truth, and therefore the Keelerites, as they are called, are outlawed and hunted by the Arbites. Archimus arrives on the Phalanx for a secret meeting with Bjorn and Korswain. On his way through the station, he meets Josequa Ervo, the Phalanx, the Archmagos. She tells him that they are working hard to restore the station, but the damage was extensive and it will take some time. When meeting Bjorn and Korswain, he tries to win them other to Dorn's side so that their Primarchs will vote for Dorn's proposed new crusade. But they tell them they are their own masters and so are their primarchs, but both hint that the Lion and Lehman will vote in favor of Dorn. The Lion because he wants to get back to Caliban as soon as possible since all contact has been lost for a while now, and Lehman just wants to eliminate the traitors. Additionally, both think Gilliman is just too cautious. Then the meeting begins, and all the primarchs arrive one by one. We see the meeting through Titus' POV. Lehman and the Lion seem to be at peace again. The fact that Lehman was stepped through the chest is just waved away as brotherly bickering. Dorn is as stoic as ever and Vulcan unreadable. The Khan has only recovered enough to attempt this meeting for a short time. He has just one eye, and all over his face and exposed body parts there is synthetic skin.
That's gross. I mean, why did why did this happen to poor Jagatai Khan? Did he say Jagatai Khan or Lehman? I damn it, I forgot. Let me go back a bit.
Through the chest is just waved away as brotherly bickering. Dorn is as stoic as ever and Vulcan unreadable. The Khan has only recovered enough to attempt this meeting for a short time. He has just one eye, and
Yeah, Jagatai Khan, like poor Khan, poor Khan. This is ridiculous. I don't like that.
all over his face and exposed body parts there is synthetic skin. He can't walk without help and has to be propped up by two white scars. Raldorin is attempting the meeting in replacement for Sanguinius. Valder is also there, but he has a blank stare and will say nothing and do nothing for this entire meeting. On the mortal side, the Senatorum Imperialis is attempting the meeting. Dorn and Gilliman have a back and forth about the next objective. Dorn wanting his new crusade and Gilliman wanting to slowly reconquer and rebuild Beaver going on the offensive. After the debate, all of the other primarchs voice their opinion and are siding with Dorn. The Khan can only speak in two-word sentences, and his voice sounds like he gargles blood. Then the Senatorum Imperialis speak, and
So you're telling me that they have all of this technology and he's a Primarch and he cannot heal from wounds? Really? Well, as far as I know, he's not stabbed with the with anything special or whatever to garner such disability of healing or whatever. I mean, he's not Vulcan, but still, that kind of seems ridiculous. All the technology and he's still like coughing blood. Ridiculous. How much time did it actually pass since the last battle?
one by one they side with Gilliman and not Dorn. This is such a shock for Dorn that for a split second he considers to physically threaten them. But then the Lion says that he will support the decision and all the other Primarchs also agree to go with Gilliman's plan. Defeated, Dorn has no other choice than to support Gilliman. But not only Dorn is shocked by this change of heart from the Senatorum Imperialis, Hassan also can't believe what has happened. He tasks Mahazan to uncover who is behind this sudden shift, and in the process also uncover who is raising, arming, and paying all these new Arbites and Exertus, which have popped up all over the palace lately. Meanwhile, he continues his search for Malcador's remains, having some clues to follow. Dorn is furious that Gilliman somehow doesn't see chaos as threat and tasks Archimus and other Imperial fists to comb through the Sol system to find clues and hints that chaos has not been destroyed but is instead waiting for its return. Before leaving, Archimus arranges a meeting between
That's confusing because if Gilliman knows that the warp is quiet, so he assumes that nothing is happening. But still, he is obliged to check. It's not like, oh, this is totally for sure. We're just gonna sit here, wait for it to return. Any smart leader will be a lot more cautious than that, and he's gonna send whatever troops he needs, whatever scouts, whatever is necessary, whatever it is, all means necessary to see that actually this is true or this is not true. Is chaos alive? Is chaos dead? I mean, that's one of the most important questions that one can answer, especially in this kind of a situation where you have your emperor uh, basically dead, you have Malcador absolutely dead, you have Sanguinius dead, you have the Imperium in shambles, in ruins, and your enemy, your enemy could still be there prepping something else that you absolutely have no idea about. So you are obliged to check. I don't know how any capable leader will agree with himself if he doesn't do his diligence. I can't say this word. Yeah, he's not going to do his checks, whatever he needs to do. This doesn't make any sense again. But yeah, continuing. But again, guys, I'm gonna get to your comments. Let's see. Just Vakira Winter, you left a few, so let's just see yours real quick. Well, on the tech side, they're in a bit of the dark ages, so much knowledge was lost after the golden age of mankind. Oh, I know, Val, I know, but they still have a lot of technology for healing. They have apothecaries. They have a lot of knowledge for healing, and it's a Primarch. Primarch should be able to heal faster, even if he's not Vulcan. Even if he's not perpetual, he should be able to heal a lot faster. So. And you also say only person I know that has disappeared is Russ, but that is in the old Wolves Codex. Also, basically, Jagatai Khan disappeared in the Webway, but in this point of this book, he's still here and suffering. So who knows by this point? The lore, I mean, they're retconning the whole thing. Almost. They're changing the context in which events happened, that also. The Emperor can't really die as he is important too. No, he's really the most important. He truly is the most important, and he always was the most important. So they can't all of a sudden say that Malkador is so damn important, like more important, imply that he's more important, or outright say it or whatever. You can't do that. The Emperor is always going to be the Emperor. And he is the one who holds the warp from opening on Terra and all hell breaking loose. That was the whole point of the Golden Throne. Oh god. And Valk says the warp was never raging. The Eye of Terror still has the old one's machines that hold back the warp. Only now is the warp raging as the machines have been blown up. I'm not sure what you mean there. The machines that hold back. Do you mean the pylons of the Necrons? That's another story though. The pylons. That's something that it's put in some of the newer books, and maybe Belisarius Cole can figure out how he can use those to close the Eye of Terror. That's a part of the new lore as well. But that book was actually good. That was Belisarius Cole versus Fabius Bile. That book was called Gene Father. I read it. It was one of the best from the new books. I really actually like that lore. There's also a black hole that they can go and tap into that, see what is there, some old knowledge, maybe drawn from there. So that's very interesting plot point, I think. I'm curious to see what Chainsaw thinks, but we're gonna read what he thinks at the end of the stream, which is gonna be very interesting. And lastly, Val, but before I can continue, I'm gonna read your comment. Is white Terminator armor are relics some of the Vessels and Titans? Yes. Yeah, of course. I get that part. But again, simple healing. Obviously, it's described here that Jagatine is talking like he's coughing blood, like he's I mean, even modern medicine now that's so ancient compared to what they should have in the 41st millennium. And this is not the 40, sorry, this is the 30K. We're still in the 30K right after the Siege of Terra. So even in the 30,000 years in the future, they should be much more advanced than what we are now, and we still have the technology to patch someone up so they're not in this kind of a state. We don't have synthetic skin, or at least we don't have what they do, but at least he's a Primarch. He should be able to recover much faster. So in any case, number one, why is he's not already recovering? Number two, why they cannot make him be able to be functioning and talk normally? Because that's maybe days at least after the siege happened. If it's like hours, I will understand, but it doesn't say anything in this leak how many hours or how many days have passed since the whole thing was over, since Horus was killed, since the Emperor was placed on the Golden Throne. It does not become clear from this leak, so that's why we can only speculate.
Dorn and Cinderman. Their Cinderman convinces Dorn to give him the authority and the blessing of a Primarch to start collecting and digging through every text containing information about chaos. Archimus then flies to the Phalanx again to board a ship for searching the void. There he meets Nura Sukassin, and upon seeing that she is now the senator for the Imperial Navy, he remarks that there are still people making the right decision. She laughs and says that she only became senator because all the other admirals are dead. Afterwards, he meets Josequa Ervo again, who shows him the new psycho-indoctrination for new Space Marines. Unlike Archimus, who only got some light hypno-indoctrination to make him more like Dorn and heighten his natural aggressive tendencies, new Space Marine recruits get the new psycho-indoctrination, which of now only 20% of neophytes survive. This indoctrination gives them an extreme hatred against traitor Space Marines, but will dull every other aspect of their personality. Never again will Space Marine have the level of independent thought and expression of personality they had during the Great Crusade. Since
That doesn't make any sense. I mean, I don't know if this is implied to be going on still in the 41st millennium, 10,000 years later, but Space Marines have all the personality in the world. Are you kidding me? They're all individuals that have unique traits to them. They're heroes in their own right, each and every one of them that's unique, like Titus that we see here. So I don't know, like, for how many years this continued, that they don't have the same amount of personality and they just have like a crazy hatred, because that is not what we see here. We see just very determined Space Marines like usual that just want to protect the Imperium, to fight for the Emperor, to be loyal. That's all we see. We don't see any crazy indoctrination, zombifying them to be like hatred towards the traitors. We don't see that. We don't see that. If they're like too emotional and conditioned to hate, they're just gonna be raging monsters. They that can't even think. Just automatons, basically, brainwashed chickens that just attack like crazies, like crazy. And we don't actually see that in the 41st millennium, so I don't really get it. Uh, why is this even written? Okay, again, again, guys, we're going to get a lot more context probably in the book, but imagine if we don't, and this is really what is written, then I'm not sure how this makes any sense. That's why I just can't wait to see what 40K, a Chainsword 40K is gonna tell me about this. But okay, let's continue because again, we have a few more minutes to go through.
this makes them more loyal, Dorn and Gilliman both agree that this is the way to go in the future to prevent another heresy. Josequa Ervo also thinks this will make Space Marines better. Archimus disagrees and is wary of this future. Then he meets with the other Imperial Fists tasked to find clues that chaos is not gone and ventures into the void. While venturing through the void, Archimus finds no evidence for sorcery, and every traitor ship they encounter has been boarded and all Space Marines on board decapitated and their heads missing. After some time, they encounter an Imperial Fist void ship, which paint job has mostly worn off, revealing the black metal underneath. It's Sigismund's ship. Archimus goes on board to talk to Sigismund. Sigismund sits on a throne deep within the ship and is surrounded by the heads of killed traitor Space Marines and way too much candles. When Sigismund learns that Keeler is missing, he laments that he should have been there to protect her. He is also glad to hear that Dorn is not a coward anymore and wants to start a new crusade. When asked by Archimus if he has seen evidence of sorcery, he says no and that he wants to leave the system. There is currently a ban on leaving the Sol system to hunt and kill more traitors. Archimus leaves and continues to search the system for signs of chaos sorcery. After some time, their ship reaches Neptune, and they also discover that one of the moons has more mass than its appearance may suggest. In the orbit of Terra, the Ultramarine fleet prepares their assault on Luna. The assault will be conducted mainly by the Ultramarines, with support elements from the Blood Angels and the Salamanders. The Dark Angels are still busy rooting out the last resistance on Terra, and the Space Wolves are busy hunting traitors in the void. This is where we get the POV of Vardesh Krya, chief apothecarius of the Sons of Horus. His mission on Luna was to build a new generation of Space Marines with the help of the Selenar. They managed to create some 70,000 new Space Marines. But the new process was far from finished, so the result are Space Marines even more mentally unstable than the Thunder Warriors. These Space Marines have crude armor and are all feral/insane. He and the Selenar know that they have no chance and will die on Luna. But they will make the Loyalist bleed for every centimeter of Luna. They have mined every access route, tunnel, and building, have hidden multiple Titans beneath rubble.
I mean, great. All that we need is just more kinds of space marines that are somehow screwed up in some kind of a way. This enriches the lore a lot. Yeah, sure.
And have rows upon rows of trenches. They also have some orbital defenses and battleships in orbit of Luna. The orbital ring surrounding Luna has been mostly destroyed, but the remaining sections are being repaired for the defense. Interesting side note. It is mentioned in one of the quotes that even in the times of reunification, Luna was one of the hardest targets to conquer for the Emperor, and that Luna, at its height before the Age of Strife, had a military production, mostly ships, capacity greater than Earth's, and that during the Great Crusade, Luna's industrial capacity surpassed that of many Forge worlds. He also talks with the Chief Gene, which about the vault underneath Luna, and if they managed to break into it. The Gene which says that nothing was able to break vault doors, and they would need Titan weaponry to do the job. Titus is with the Ultramarines attacking Luna. The first wave is ambushed by not only Sons of Horus and the new Feral Space Marines, but also Titans of all types, and got nearly wiped out, but wave after wave the Loyalists slowly get a footing on Luna. The fighting is brutal and unforgiving, mostly due to the Feral Space Marines. They might have no chance against an Ultramarine in a 1v1, but there are enough of them to swarm the Loyalists and wear them out to make it easier for the Sons of Horus to kill them. Titus is amazed that Luna faces the entire might of the Ultramarines and not only manages to hold, but they also stall the advance, and if they don't find a breakthrough soon there might be a chance that Luna will break the wrath of an entire legion. But trench after trench, tower after tower, and city after city, the Ultramarines gain the upper hand and manage to encircle the central spire of Luna. During these fights, he meets one of the salamanders of Bidimi, who has a new knife. It's the ceremonial knife Gelada got from the Thousand Sun. In the midst of all this fighting, Titus and his man are ordered to support the Blood Angels attacking a tunnel network. There is no further information, which makes Titus suspicious. That and the fact that he can hardly believe that the Blood Angels would need help in a close-quarters environment. Titus and his men link up with the Blood Angels in the caverns beneath Luna, and like on Terra, they seem reserved and less than they were before Sanguinius' death. The Blood Angels also stay among themselves and only interact with the Ultramarines if they need to. Together they fight their way through the caverns. When they reach the final chamber, they fight against the main force of the Sons of Horus stationed there. During this final battle, Titus noticed that something is wrong with the Blood Angels. They are too reserved and for some reason hold themselves back. This leads to a near collapse of their flanks, and the Ultramarines have to support the Blood Angels so that they don't get overwhelmed in melee combat. In this fight, Titus is nearly overwhelmed, but out of desperation manages to cast a psychic shockwave, confirming for him that the warp is in fact not gone. In the end, they succeed and clear the chamber. There is a giant black gate in the end of the chamber. The gate shows signs of multiple attempts to breach it. The Blood Angels have the access codes and use them to open it. On the other side, there is a giant chasm, and in this chasm are countless black ships of a design unknown to Titus. The Blood Angels captain thanks Titus for the support and says from here on the Blood Angels alone will hold this chasm. Titus wonders if the reason behind sending the Blood Angels on this mission was that they have no pre-march who could inform the wider Imperium what happened here. Krya prepares for the last assault of the Loyalist. His final spire is surrounded and all Tions are defeated or soon to be defeated. He goes to landing pad which is wide enough for the Ultramarines to open a second front. When the fighting starts, he is in the thick of it enjoying the killing, as this is his true nature as a Space Marine. He cuts his way through Ultramarines, but the Sons of Horus are slowly pushed back, so he charges the Ultramarine commander to turn the tide. They both duel, and in the end Krya wins through pure determination. After this victory, he faces an Ultramarine librarian. They both duel, but in the end the librarian manages to kill Krya. The librarian was Titus. Back on Terra, Hassan manages to find the people responsible for the disappearance of Malcador's remains. It's the Officio Assassinorum. The head of the assassins tells him that the crypta reserved for Malkador had to be filled with machinery to support the Golden Throne, so they saved his casket by removing it. The head of the assassins tells them that Malkador was above all else the master of assassins, and that they have to get their seat on the Senatorum Imperialis so that Malkador's influence will never fade, and that Hassan has to be new master of assassins. Hassan at first is reluctant, but then agrees to be the new.
Again, I thought that nothing was left from freaking Malkador. So, what is this search of his remains now? Well, I just can't. Really, I just can't fathom this. Oh boy. And to think that the last three Siege of Terra books came out like a year ago. It was not that far ago. So what has been written there, it's all of a sudden like, meh, doesn't matter. We need Dan Abnett writing this, not this random guy that I don't even know the author's name, I forget. Because this does seem like a fan fiction, by all accounts. But we have 7 more minutes to go through. Let's just continue and see what's left. There's some primarchs left, I think. And let's see what you guys are saying. The statement blocks the Space Marines games and all other 40K games books. About the 40K, yeah, about the Space Marines, how they are now, so indoctrinated and brainwashed. I just can't make sense of this. I really can't. Mr. YouTube says, I have a bad feeling about this that they will gang up the lore immensely. Yeah, that's why I wrote in the the title that this is a freaking disgrace. Because it is. It is a disgrace. If it's true, again, if it's true. Valkyria says the Death Watch took traders to redeem themselves, which is through death, but still. I think that's another topic. I mean, the Death Watch was not mentioned, I don't think. Sorry, I can't spell today, yeah, no problem. I had to hear about the founding of the Sisters of Battle. The founding of the Sisters of Battle? Where was that written, though? Well, Valkyria Winter. Mr. Mitchum says Chris Rath is the author of the Scouring Ashes of the Imperium. Okay, Chris Wright or Chris whatever. Never heard of him. Never. I think that for the most major books, I understand that Dan Abnett cannot write everything, but for the most major books, they really have to give it to somebody that knows what he's doing. This guy seems like a newcomer. Maybe he's not, but I read so many books I never heard of him. I have no idea what he wrote before. And this seems like a freaking amateur writing, and it doesn't seem connected to anything else. I mean, to cohesively connected to the lore that we already know. On the contrary, it confuses it and makes it convoluted and a lot worse. But again, we're gonna see when the book actually comes out. Let's continue. We have 7 minutes, like I said.
Master and take his seat as a Senatorum Imperialis. Sometime after that, Hassan enters the office of the head of the Administratum Pentasian. Pentasian feels safe because Hassan had to go through 7 weapon scanners to reach him. They talk for a bit and Pentasian taunts him and says that the time of Malkador's chosen is gone and that they will never get a seat at the Senate. Then suddenly Hassan disappears, and in the next moment a woman in a black bodysuit holds a blade at Pentasian's throat. Turns out Pentasian has not talked to Hassan, but a Calidus assassin. Realizing how powerful the assassins are, he allows Hassan a seat as the master of assassins. Meanwhile, Mahazan has discovered that one of the senators, Nemo Jimeng, is secretly a Keelerite. She waits for him at a hidden shrine, which not only contains a depiction of Keeler, but also of a male guardsman carrying a baby, Katsuhiro mentioned. Jimeng does not seem concerned when he is confronted by Mahazan, and only tells her that if she had been at the Astronomicon during the siege, she would have become a Keelerite just as he has become one. Then suddenly two figures appear seemingly out of nowhere, and their pure presence make her nauseous. Mahazan meets Hassan in his new office as a senator and tells him what she has been told by the Sisters of Silence. Gilliman and the sisters have worked together and intimidated the Administratum to join their side. Since without the Administratum, no other branch of the Imperium can function properly. The goal was to support Gilliman so he can conquer Luna and get hold of the black ships stationed there before they fall into the enemy's hand. The reason is simple. Something is wrong the Emperor. They were all meant to believe that it will take just a few months before the Emperor will be healed enough to be able to speak again. But that has not happened despite the combined effort of Zagrus Kane and Valder. The Emperor's wounds do not heal. They are not even sure if he is still alive. The Emperor is also unable to use the Golden Throne, and at the moment the Golden Throne is a black hole sucking in tremendous amounts of energy without.
Okay, if that's the case, why did they put him in the Golden Throne? Why didn't they remove him on the Golden Throne? If he cannot use it, who is actually protecting Terra from the warp entering our reality? Like, this is so crazy and doesn't make any sense. Okay, but okay, let's continue.
Giving anything back in return. They need the black ships from Luna sooner than later to collect Psychers. Since the Emperor can't use the Golden Throne, they have to feed Psychers to it, as they had done during the war in the Webway or the assault at the Vengeful Spirit when the Emperor wasn't on the throne. This is the sole reason why Gilliman wanted to take Luna first, since he is the.
Wait a minute, also, if the throne is the one that actually needs Psychers and not the Emperor, why not remove the Emperor from the Golden Throne and just feed the throne Psychers and not the Emperor? Why is the Emperor needed there if he cannot use the throne, if the throne is only 2% of itself, if the throne is not functioning well, if the throne is preventing the Emperor to heal and recover, which it is, which seems like it is. It's doing exactly that, it's just killing him continuously. I mean, what? The Emperor was not stabbed with the anathema. Horus was. So there is no reason for the Emperor not to be able to heal, since he's the most powerful perpetual ever. And putting him on a device that is going to prevent this from happening, that actually can be sustained by itself if you only feed it psychers. I mean, this completely destroys the whole purpose of putting the Emperor on the throne. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, if you understand this in another way, but by what is said here, it seems that the throne can be just fed psychers, and you don't actually need someone to be on there. But previously we knew that it was absolutely necessary, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that the Emperor should be there, so all hell will not break loose, so he can hold the warp through the power of all the psychers that are fed to him. But now, it seems like there's no such thing, and then the Emperor should be just removed from there. And the psychers can be just thrown to the throne itself. Like, this throne is what, like a separate entity? But in the same time, the throne is broken, the throne is damaged, and only 2% of the whole throne room and the throne are somehow there and somehow functioning. So, this doesn't make any sense, really doesn't.
Only pre-March who knows about the true state the Emperor is in. Archimus gets back to Dorn and tells him about his findings, that there is warp sorcery on one of Neptune's moons. Dorn then goes and tells the Lion and Lehman. They both believe Dorn, and all three take one of the Dark Angel's void hips to head to Neptune. Back on Neptune's moon, the band of IW and WB are met by other world eaters who hold this tiny moon and its mortal population in a never-ending spiral of crushing labor and or torture. This is necessary to hold up the illusion around the moon, since the warp is so extremely calm, even at a place like this, which has always had a deeper connection to the warp sorceries, are near impossible. The WB on the moon tell the group that they are preparing to board a loyalist battleship and use this battleship to flee the system. The IW are skeptical about this plan. Turns out they are right, since after some time the IW managed to get to the spaceport, where they discover that all void ships have been damaged to a degree that they will never again go into the void. As they observe the port, a group of Night Lords attacks and try to get to one of the ships. Suddenly word bearers appear out of hiding and slaughter all the Night Lords. This confirms Theocon's suspicion that the plan to board a battleship is just a ruse. They then find an old communications tower and try to use it to contact.
Wait, so the word bearers slaughter the Night Lords, and they're both against the Imperium. So they should be at least not against each other. They should work together, but they just slaughtered each other. And I wish he didn't put so many abbreviations, because like word bears WB, but all the other things, like I supposed to guess what that is. He should have just written things as they are called. I really hate abbreviations. Okay, we have 3 more minutes.
Attack the ships they had discovered earlier. As they were trying to do this, they are attacked by word bearers, and most of the Iron Warriors die. Theocon and the rest surrenders, but they manage to get a message into space. Meanwhile, the WB on the moon tells Adraharsis their real plan. They are sacrificial lambs for the dark gods. To get the warp to stir again, they need slaughter and hatred against the dark gods. Therefore, the WB have planted multiple of these sacrificial places all over the galaxy to get a new loyalist crusade starting, which would reawaken the warp and the dark gods. They also managed to summon a small demon. Because of the calm warp, for every one of the demon's breaths, 100 souls have to be sacrificed and much more to be tortured and suffer. The demon tells Adraharsis that the Emperor has nearly killed the Chaos Gods when he obliterated Horus, and that they are now hiding deep in the warp to gather new strength. He also tells him a way to kill the Chaos Gods once and for all. Since they are made out of emotions, if one manages to pull all these souls and emotions apart, they will not be able to reform again as the Chaos Gods, and thus the gods would die. But as Adraharsis remarks, every word from a demon.
Well, yeah, every word from a demon. Okay, if that is true though, this would be very cool, and the key to kill the Chaos Gods, which seems pretty simple, at least. Not easy. At least it's simple though. But okay, let's continue. We have 2 more minutes. That's an interesting concept though.
Demon is either a lie, a metaphor, the truth, or altogether or nothing. Theocon and the surviving Iron Warriors are brought to the dark shrine on the moon are being tortured. As Adraharsis talks to him and tries to convince him that their plan is the right way, the moon is suddenly attacked. A dropship lands before the both of them, and suddenly Adraharsis stands face to face Perturabo. Turns out Perturabo left the siege, but never the Sol system. He lay in wait, observing who would win the final assault on the palace. After receiving the message, he came to the moon. He kills Adraharsis the same way we would swat a fly, and orders that Theocon will be freed. Sometime after Theocon talks to Perturabo, Perturabo tells him that he intends to use warp, but as a tool. This should be the way of the Iron Warriors. Everything can be understood, everything can be broken and repurposed by them as a tool, including the warp and demons. Theocon can't believe what he is hearing, and that Perturabo suddenly sounds like Horus. Perturabo then begins to systematically eradicate and bulldoze the entire moon. This serves two purposes. One, to spite his brother Lorgar with this act, and second, by destroying the moon systematically, without any form of hatred. The warp will not be stirred by this actions, giving Perturabo more time to find a way to control it. When the Loyalist Primarchs arrive, they find a barren moon with an artificially smooth surface without any trace that there has ever been any form of life or chaos worship. After the Lion and Leman head back to Terra, Archimus reassures that there has been warp sorcery on this moon. Dorn believes him and says that we'll have enough time to find evidence once the ban on leaving the system is lifted. The book ends with Theocon aboard an Iron Warrior void ship heading towards the Mandeville Point. He has a crisis of faith when it comes to Perturabo and openly complains that the path his Primarch has chosen is wrong, but what can he do? He is a space marine and has to obey.
Sorry, I was muted. Okay, that was it. That was it. So let's see your comments, and then we're gonna read. I'm gonna read what Chainsword 40K said. Ah, this is so confusing. No, guys, it's such a mess. So, from what I remember, says Valkyrie Winter, from what I remember, the Emperor was so badly wounded from his son, they had to place him on the throne to keep him alive. Now, that was old lore before they said what and who the Emperor is. I mean, the original lore that we just had 5 minutes ago was exactly that. You know, the emperor was placed on the golden throne because the whole idea was that he has to protect Terra, and he has to keep the whole warp at bay by emanating his energy from there. And there was a lot of questions about, is the throne actually killing him? Is it preventing the emperor to heal? But still he had to be there, and that was both a curse and something that's very necessary. But what you said here before, we knew who the emperor is. What do you mean? I don't get it. The emperor is still the emperor, so he's not something that we don't know. He's still the emperor. So we gotta tell me what you mean there. Thomas says, sounds like a mess of multiple types of bad ideas and worse choices. Thomas, that's how it sounds for now. Yeah. Mr. YouTube says the Horus Heresy novel series in the epitome of too many cooks spoil the broth. Yes, like too many cooks in the kitchen. The chaos gods die? No, they are kinda almost dead. Like, this book basically tries to explain again, if this is true. I gotta keep repeating this. If this is even true, if this leak is true, if this guy is telling the book right, because English is not his first language as well. So if this is true, he means to say that the Chaos Gods were so badly wounded through Horus. Somehow they were so connected to Horus, and they couldn't separate themselves from Horus, because, I mean, this also doesn't make sense. They were giving him powers. They were not glued to Horus. I mean, sure, the emperor could see the gods when he was speaking to Horus. They can see the gods within him, possessing him, speaking into his ear, completely taking over Horus's being. Okay, fine, but that doesn't mean that they have to be connected to him in such a way that they also get damaged. It was obvious that they were there to be an audience, first of all. That it was implied the way that the last 3 books of the Siege of Terror were written, the end and the death of volume 1, 2, and 3. It was implied pretty clearly that they were there to be audience. They were not there to be connected physically or energy-wise to Horus in such a way that they also got damaged. Nobody said that they were damaged in any kind of a way when the Emperor killed Horus. The Emperor just killed Horus. So the hold of the gods dropped in the last minute, in the last seconds, you can say, of Horus's life, when the Emperor finally struck him with the anathema blade, and he was free from the gods, and he saw truth, and he actually regretted his actions to an extent. He understood that he was a pawn. Everything happened in such a fast way, kind of like when you die and you see your whole life in like a tape or whatever. So the way that these last 3 books were written, they also changed things a bit, but the books were good. They had some filler like, oh, 40K books, but there was never such outrageous things. Such outrageous things that we read here. So that's why this is a very huge mess. And good luck to anybody that want to keep track of everything that ever happened in 40K. That's why we need 40K, a chainsaw 40K, guys. Sorry. Sounds like a mess. The Horus, I'm just reading your comments. Wish you luck on reading that book. Thank you, Valkyrie. Okay, let's see what lovely, amazing Chainsaw 40K said. Give me a second here, guys. So basically, because there's also a picture that this guy on Reddit posted of the book, that he really has it. Like, he posted a picture where there's multiple books, and one of these books is this particular book. That's why this seems legit for now. But this was after the first post of the Custodes. So the first post didn't seem that much legit. It could be anything. Now this seems more legit, so we'll see. Okay. So he says all the plot points make no sense if we compare them to current lore and what we already know about the Golden Throne, the Emperor, and Gilliman. It's like War of the Beast all over again, when they tried so hard to make another epic series like the Horus Heresy but failed so badly that nobody remembers it. Too bad it's messed with the origins of the Death Watch, almost wiped out the entire Imperial Fist chapter down to one man, and other ridiculous stuff GW doesn't mention anymore because someone in the lore department realized it was absurd. But overall, if the throne isn't working, why not remove the Emperor right now? Since Gilliman was present, he would know, and he met with the Emperor and talked to him. If something was wrong, I presume he would have mentioned it, or has GW already forgotten about that plot point? Yeah, because we actually didn't. We know that Gilliman went and he spoke to the Emperor, which is also kind of a recent lore, since that happened after Gilliman returned from the dead. There may also be some things lost in translation, yes, since we don't know if the person who wrote that summary is native English or German speaker. Actually, I'm pretty sure that we do know he should be native German speaker. He seems to be native German, yes, because he was active on German Reddit. It's the same Reddit user that people used as source when claiming female custodies were canon in that book. Yes, he's been in the hobby for around 3 to 4 years, and he has somewhat left. That's about something else, actually. The more I look into it, the more I think it's either really dumb. Yeah, the more I look into it, the more I think it's either really dumb writing or the person is making things up, but it's very credible. He says that he got book at Frankfurt Book Fair. This either be a huge F up by GW or they are proof copies. So this is what he said, but again, if I can get him here on the show, he can just tell me directly and tell us directly what he thinks about this. But as it stands right now, before this book comes out, it is bad lore. It's not good. Actually, this is the worst lore that I ever read. So we gotta see what is going to happen in the future. And I'm gonna try to get this book as soon as it comes out. I know that this book was, I think, delayed at least 2 times. So that's kind of a bummer, guys. Now I'm gonna read your last comments. And after that, we're going to rate my dear friend Disgusting, who has his network show right now. And they're talking about a few things that are going on in the entertainment world as well. So if you're interested in that, I'm gonna send you over there in a minute. Okay, so Valkyria says, so before we didn't know about the immortal shamans of Earth, before the knowing of the perpetuals. Yeah, that was very old lore. Old lore, though, very old. And by this point, if something is super old, we don't know if it's still the lore. It's just forgotten. We can say, yeah, probably that's the lore because it's not retconned yet, but we can never be sure because GW are doing such things like that, you know, they're still retconning stuff. Okay, Mr. YouTube, he has to go. Bye. Have a great evening. And I have to go as well. So let's send you to Disgusting. And now you're going to also see your names, guys, on the screen. Whoever supported the stream, King of Monsters and Valkyrie Winter are gonna see their names first, and everybody else, of course. But I appreciate that you guys are here. Watch everything else. I have other things that are prepped as content for this channel, for the gaming channel. Every day I stream there in the mornings, which is like 12, more than 12 hours from now, like 14 hours from now. It's now 10:20 p.m. my time, so for me it's a bit late. And if you're a superhero fan, watch the superhero channel, which is Superhero Truth. I am going to paste that so you know actually my other channels in case you're interested in the gaming. We have great shows there, like non-stop. I'm most active on this channel right now because I'm still developing it. Of course, I'm still developing this one, but gaming channel needs a bit more love at the moment. Also, the superhero channel. If you're interested in superheroes, I'm covering everything, including the Snyderverse that seems to be now coming back, or at least having a lot of hope about coming back. So that's going to be very interesting in the next couple of years. And of course, everything that Henry Cavill is doing with the Warhammer universe, I'm going to cover here. With that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments about this new lore. Love you guys. With me, the 40K Empress. Bye bye.
The 40K Empress leads the way as warriors of the Imperium sway into realms where dangers play, where hidden minds hold sway. Through stars and storms we rise, under her watchful eyes, with faith and fire will prevail, for the Imperium must not fail. For the Imperium we prevail. Beneath the grand cathedral spires, plots twist like smoldering fires, but with her blade of pure desire, she claims the stars entire. Through stars and storms we rise, under her watchful eyes, with faith and fire